Welcome to another tutorial. This is Bob Johnston, Carroll High School and Studio 415. We're going to talk about several different aspects of the Premiere Pro interface today and how we can operate around them and understand what's happening. The first thing I want to show you is we've been adding effects and titles and a bunch of other different things and transitions to our sequence. And so we end up with these red and yellow lines that are above our clips. What are those? Those are render lines. They are telling you that to play your video back correctly, you may need to do what's called a render. What is a render? Well, here we go. According to this definition, a render is rendering is also used to describe the process of calculating effects in a video editing program to produce final video output. That's one way of saying it. What I want you to think of it as is as we play this video, and we have these effects added, it's very possible that the video will lag. If the video lags, it's because in real time, Premiere Pro is trying to adjust for the slowdown and the speed and duration here, any other effects we might have added to it. And then there's a title on top of it, and it's hard for Premiere Pro sometimes to process all those different changes simultaneously in real time. So we are being asked to render. If it's red, then that is saying there's a really good chance that your video might lag while you play it back. If it's yellow, it's like think of a stoplight. Yellow is, okay, go ahead and go cautiously. And if it's green, then that means everything is great. So this whole section needs to be rendered, and I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. But the first thing you have to realize is the default for Premiere Pro is that it will render only in the work area. The work area is this gray bar that goes across top of the sequence and below this timeline. You can change the length of the workspace by grabbing on the golden end and dragging it. So if I only want to render this area, then I want my workspace to be just over this area. But I'm going to try and render the whole thing eventually. For the sake of the video, I'll just do something small like this. On this video, I have just some normal video, a couple of titles, and some picture-in-picture stuff that will need to be rendered. So, really easy. To render, you can hit the Enter key on your keyboard. So go ahead and hit Enter. You can see the process is popping up. It's rendering. It's making these effects and these transitions and this picture-in-picture semi-permanent. It's making it permanent in the standpoint that the program knows that you're committed to these effects and that going forward it's going to make them more permanent so that when it plays back you can actually see the effects play in real time without any lag problems. Now this doesn't mean you're going to get rid of all your lag problems, but it means you're going to get rid of most of them. As you can see, as I render, I still have some yellow spots here. This will eventually render out this whole section here to be green because this is where my workspace ends. I know this is where it will stop rendering at, and I will have yellow and green lines up to here and yellow and red lines after that. So I'm going to let this finish out and so we can see the difference. Now, there wasn't really any lag when I was doing this the first time. I'm just going to render the audio. There wasn't really any lag, so you may not see a big difference here. But afterwards, I'm going to go ahead and play it. And there really shouldn't be any lag issues at all. Well, what do you know? There are still some lag issues. We still have yellow here, and so you might ask, well, Mr. J, how can we get rid of the yellow? Well, here's the second option. Hitting the Enter key is the first way to render. The second way is to go up to Sequence, and then we have Render Effects in Work Area, which would mean we just want to, that's what Enter does, it's just rendering the effects. If we want to render the entire work area, I'll click on this, and that will make all these lines turn green. Not just the effects, the transitions, but everything in here will turn green, which means it is rendered and is ready for live playback without any problems. I'm going to go ahead and stop that process just because I don't think it's important enough for us to watch the whole thing happen now. If you're going to render your whole project, you have to bring this all the way out, stretch the work area to cover up all your video, to cover over your video, and then you can hit Enter, the Enter key, or you can go up to Sequence, Render Entire Work Area. This will take longer because it will render the video effects, the video transitions, the pictures in pictures, and any audio that needs to be rendered. but it's a good thing to do every once in a while. And once you do render, I recommend you hit Control S so that becomes your last save point. You can continue on from there. The next thing I want to talk about is our tools. So we're going to switch a little bit over to what the different tools do. So as you remember, the toolbar is this area right here, and we have several different tools to use while we're editing. The first one is the most common one. It's the selection tool. The shortcut key is V. This allows you to click on a clip and drag it and move it around. It will allow you to stretch out and use trim mode to make your clips longer or shorter. It will allow you to place clips on different video tracks and move audio tracks around. And the selection tool also will allow you to mess with the rubber band. But as you remember from my class, I strongly suggest staying away from this yellow rubber band because it's just not very good. Control Z, put that clip back. And Premiere Pro is assigned. There we go. So again, we can click and drag our clips around with the selection tool. We can stretch them out and use trim mode to make them longer, etc., etc. The next tool is the track selection tool, shortcut key A. When I click on that, this will allow me to highlight or select everything on that track after that point. So if we go back to selection tool, you see I can select one clip at a time, hold down Control, and I can select multiple clips, or I can click and drag, which is another thing you can do. Click and drag to select all those clips. Or we can use the track selection tool, which when I click here, it selects every clip on this track after where I clicked. So now all these are highlighted. If I wanted to go back and wanted to move them all, you can see they're all moving together in unison. I can click at the very beginning of my track. Boom. I can hold down Shift. So I click on track 1, and that's all selected. Hold down Shift. I can add track 2 and 3 so that they're all selected, and that allows me to move my whole project together in unison. Control Z to go undo. The next one is Ripple Edit Tool. This one is similar to the red trim tool we have when we have our selection tool, but this one has a little bit of a unique feature. Once you trim, it will ripple delete for you. So hit Control Z. I'm going to zoom in. I want you to see what's happening. Using the Ripple Edit tool, I am going to hover, get that yellow tool. When I drag to the right, you can see how much video I'm getting rid of. But once I let go of the mouse, it will ripple delete for you and move all the clips to the left to fill in that space that you removed. Next tool is the Rolling Edit tool. This one, when you hover over it, will give you this red icon. Where's it going? It's not coming. There we go. And when I do this and I trim to the right or to the left, instead of removing the video, it's going to replace it with what I'm moving. So let me explain that better. So I have a student section video and a rugby video. When I use this tool and go to the right, it's going to increase the length of my student section video and decrease the length of my rugby video. So instead of having an empty space and ripple deleting like this tool did, this one will just add any available video from the student section to this clip and make it longer while making the rugby clip shorter. Next one is the Rate Stretch tool. So I'm going to come over here. What the Rate Stretch tool does is this is basically speed and duration without having to right click and go to speed and duration. So this clip right now is a shot of something happening in Studio 415. If I use the Rate Stretch tool, hover over the end of it, and I stretch it out, it's basically slow-mowing the clip for me, and the longer I drag it out, the slower it's going to be. If I use the Rate Trim tool and go and make the clip shorter, it's speeding up the clip for me. So this is a kind of a quicker way within the sequence to change the length, change the speed of your clip without having to go in speed and duration. So let's say I have this much room and I just need to stretch this clip out to match that empty space, which this isn't a very good example right now, but this is one way to do it. Control Z. the cut tool or the razor tool. This is one of my favorite tools. If I have, let's go to this title that I made, Neon Nation title. All right, let's say that I need to make this shorter. Ripple delete. Say like this. I have this title, and I want to go to this title, and so I bring this clip, the second one, Neon Nation 2, over top. You can see it's too long. It's not going to fit in there if I want to drop it down to track 1. Of course, with the selection tool, you can click, drag, and trim it down so it fits, and then drop it in empty space. Or you can use the razor tool, which is shortcut key C. And this is literally a razor blade. So I line up where I want to cut, click, makes a cut. You see now it's 2 separate clips. This Neon Nation title used to be 1, but now it's 2. I'm going to hit V to get back to my selection tool, select that part, delete it, drag this down, and make it fit perfectly. You can also use the razor tool to just cut some clips up if you need to. If I come over here and I decide that this is just way too long, I can razor tool, cut out there, cut out here, get rid of that section, hit V, select it, delete it, right click, ripple delete. And now I've gotten rid of that small section in the middle of my clip. Control Z to undo, and we're back to normal. So the razor tool is really helpful. I'm going to skip the slip tool. I'm going to skip the slide tool and the pen tool. The hand tool I think is pretty useless, just my opinion. I think its most common use is just to slide to the left and the right on your sequence so you can see your clips. But there's no reason to leave the selection tool because down below you have the slide that you can use to go left and right and see the rest of your sequence. And then finally, the last tool is the zoom tool. Click to zoom in, Alt to zoom back out. But again, it doesn't make sense to me to come over here and select the zoom tool when you can be on the selection tool all the time and use the plus and minus key on your keyboard to zoom in and out. Remember that I really encourage my students to have one hand on the mouse, one hand on the keyboard when you're editing. Not a great time to save the project. A couple more things I want to go over today is maximizing your screen. So what I mean by that is when you're watching this video, maybe you can see all the detail you want to see up here. But there's a shortcut key to make the program monitor full screen. And that is Control Squiggly. You might be wondering, what is Control Squiggly? Well, I think the symbol is actually called a tilde. But here it is. It's right between the Escape key and the Tab key. If you hold down Control and hit that key, it will make your program monitor full screen. You can hit spacebar and see your video full screen, which is something I recommend that you do before you turn in any project. Take a look at it, see how it looks full screen, and then you can hit spacebar to play it while you're in that mode. And then Control Squiggly to bring it back to where it was before. That's all I have for you today. Please practice these tips. Mess around with rendering. Mess around with using the tools. And then whenever you want to watch a video, Control Squiggly will allow you to do that. I'm going to go ahead and render this out, and I will see you all later. Thank you so much for watching.